Well, hello everyone, it's Laura here from the Visitor Centre. I've had to come into work today, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to bring you down with me into the Leigh Woods vaults and have a look at what's inside. So, here's the door. Let's go in and see how they're doing. Now, it's quite dark in here, but I'm hoping that we'll have some lighting. Oh, perfect, there we go. Now, the vaults were one of the first parts of the bridge to be built, and Brunel constructed them in August 1836 is when he began building here in Leigh Woods, and he worked on these right through until 1843 when they were completed. After that, the site was left for some time, then the towers were built on top, then it was left again, and then the bridge was completed after Brunel's death by Sir John Hawkshaw and William Henry Barlow. So within that 33-year span, these vaults kind of got forgotten about. And you can see, if you follow me right up here into the ceiling, see that little hole there? That was one of the ways the workmen left when the vaults were complete. So they were really sealed up. There was no way really for people to come back in to do inspection or maintenance. That wasn't really expected in the Victorian times. And so people just kind of forgot that they were here. The engineers always expected it, but nobody could find a way in. So it was only in 2002 when the vaults were rediscovered. And the way that I've just come in now was a new entrance that was cut through in 2002. So you can see here these amazing boreholes that were made by the drills that came through the stonework here, and you can see that that's about 2 meters thick. A big wedge of rock was pushed out here to create a door for us that we could come in and out of to do maintenance activities, which makes it a lot easier than abseiling in from the ceiling. So right now we're in vault number 4. Essentially, we're underneath the toll barriers. So if we look up, there's a pavement above us here where people will be walking. We've got the toll barriers where that little hole is in the ceiling, and then we've got a pavement on the far side. And you might have been wondering about this big lump of rock here. This is actually the original rock of the Avon Gorge. So the purpose of the abutment structure and these vaulted chambers was to provide a platform to put the tower on top of. So there was literally nobody ever going to come in here, nobody was going to use this space as a room. And so the builders just basically built the vaults around the rock. And you can see kind of the foundations are just dug in, and this limestone has just been left in situ. The other thing you might notice about vault number 4 here is all of these amazing stalactites on the ceiling. Some of those have grown a bit since I came in here at the end of last season. And they grow incredibly quickly, actually. And that's because the whole structure was built using lime mortar. If I move down here, you can see it on the walls here. Oh, look at that, lovely. There we go. And this lime mortar is just like the kind of lime scale that you get around your taps. People who live in Bristol will know what I'm talking about. And what happens is that when it rains, the rainwater leaches through the stonework. It picks up some of that carboniferous calcium carbonate, and it draws it out and redeposits it. And it grows these amazing straw stalactites on the ceiling. There we go. And they're called straw stalactites because they're long and they're thin and they're hollow in the middle. And they grow like that because what happens is every time a little drip forms on the ceiling, it leaves a ring of calcium carbonate behind. The next one does the same, and the next one does the same, and eventually they grow into these tubes. And they get to about 6 or 7 meters long, and then they're so fragile that they actually just drop down. And that's one of the reasons that when you come in here on a tour that you have to wear a hard hat. You might have noticed we've got a ladder up the rock face here that leads all the way to this little doorway at the top. That's not a bird in there, that's just a stalagmite that's grown in the entrance. There we go. That little doorway there leads through into vault number 3. Vault number 3 is built on the top of this rock slope, so the roof is at the same level to give us a nice even pavement to walk along outside, but the floor's a lot higher up, and you might just be able to see, oh, let's get some focus in, there we go, you might just be able to see a little line in the stonework here that demarks the floor level inside vault number 3. So if we did climb up and go into that, it would be a bit more like a cellar or a castle dungeon. It wouldn't be as grand as this one here. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go through this tiny little passage here. It's about, I don't know, about 4.5 feet high, and it goes through into vault number 5, which is the most impressive chamber. And arachnophobes beware. I'm going to show you here, I've just noticed, look at this amazing cobweb that's been grown in here. In the entrance to the vaults we have a special spider, it's called the cave spider, which I think in Latin is Metnum mardi or something close to that. We don't normally see them this far in, it's probably just because the place hasn't been disturbed for so long that one's adventured a little bit further. But it's not normally bad, you don't normally see them in here, so you don't need to worry about it if you do come on a vaults tour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crouch down, and I'm going to come through this narrow passage here. I'm going to try quite hard not to bump my head or knock off any of these little stalactites that are growing on the ceiling. They've all just appeared quite recently as well, so I want to make sure I look after them. And I'm going to go through into vault number 5. Oh, here we go. Right, this now is vault number 5. You can probably hear that the echo's got a bit greater. This is the largest chamber. I think it's about 17 meters long by 10 meters high, something like that. It's a long time since I looked at the numbers, so I hope I'm not fibbing to you there. And this chamber is directly beneath the tower arch. So about here, if we had a little window in the middle of our screen now, we'd be looking up at the bottom of the Leigh Woods Tower, and we'd be seeing cars running in both directions over our heads, because the ceiling here is underneath the roadway that leads up to the bridge. If we move down inside this chamber here, I'm going to stay on this little wooden platform because I don't want to disturb any of the little stalactites that grow on the floor. There's a good one down here. This one's my favourite because it looks like a little man in a hat. There he is. And if we walk down on here, I can show you that there are a couple of little tunnels in the side of this chamber. There's one. We've got another one opposite us here. There's the other. And we've got two more identical. One all the way up there. And if I turn back round again, one all the way up there. And these little passages lead to the 4 corner chambers, which are in the corners of the abutment. So if you're ever standing at the base of the tower looking out at the views across the Avon Gorge, you're standing on top of a corner vault, which is at the end of this passageway. And that's not light that you're seeing at the end there, daylight, that's electric light. That's just to illuminate the shaft at the end. So what we've got at the end of this passage here is a huge vertical shaft. It comes all the way down from the abutment where you stand to look at the view, past this top hole, down, 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 past this second hole, and it carries on going down, down, down another 20 metres to the bottom of Vault 10, which is a chamber exactly like this one, but another level lower down. So essentially, this is the first floor and that's the basement. And I think that works for you whether you're English or American, that kind of analogy. It's always a little hard to tell. If we did cut some ways through here, there'd be a corner vault behind this wall here. There would be a corner vault behind this wall here. There would be a corner vault behind this wall here, and another one behind this wall here. And here, the stone is actually very, very thick. This is only about half the thickness of this wall because it continues after this. And the wall here is very thick because the leg of the tower is built on top of this. So essentially what we've got is a stone column inside the wall which supports the weight of the tower all the way down to the limestone underneath. You might have spotted this little contraption over here as I was panning round. There we go. This is a little winch that we use to help people access Vault 10 when they're doing maintenance inspections. And the hatch to get into Vault 10 is in the floor for us here. Now, Avon Fire and Rescue use that when they're doing enclosed spaces training, when they're learning how to rescue people from collapsed buildings or caves or things like that. I wouldn't really recommend going down there because actually once you've got through this little passage here, that 2 meters of stone you can see is the thickness of our floor or the ceiling of Vault 10. And then you're right up in the top of Vault 10, kind of at that level, and you've still got to get the rest of the 10 meters all the way down to the actual gorge itself. So it's a bit of a journey, and not something that you can really do unless you've got all the right training and certifications. I certainly wouldn't climb down that ladder unless I was fully kitted up with a harness and had a team here at the top of the winch to make sure that I could get back up again afterwards. The other thing you might have spotted are these big dark lumps in the top of the chamber here. Let's zoom in on those. There we go. So you might just be able to make out that that is a piece of wood with a sort of an iron bolt in it. And these are the ends of the tie bars that Brunel put in to ensure that the tops of his corner vaults, which were domes rather than arches like this one, were able to stay as perfect dome shapes even when the weight of the tower and then later the weight of the bridge deck and the load of the traffic was placed on top of them. Now, Brunel was a bit worried that they might get squashed and deformed, so he went for the belt and braces approach with it, building domes in the first place and then reinforcing them with tie bars. But actually, it wasn't really needed. When the engineers came in here and saw these, they saw this rotten wood and this rusted iron. They thought, oh dear, we may have a problem here. But they discovered actually that the stone structure was pretty stable all by itself and not a lot of work needed to be done to help reinforce it. So well done, Brunel, to be honest. It's a very, very strong structure, and it's so strong because it's been built using Roman technology, just like viaducts. Stone and arches was a proven method of carrying great weights over large heights. So a very good way of utilising ideas that had already been in practice for a long time. I hope you enjoyed this look around, and I hope to be able to welcome you in here in person soon for your very own Hard Hats Vault Tour. Don't forget, you can buy gift vouchers now on our online shop to be redeemed once we're back up and running again. And if you sign up to our e-newsletter, you'll be one of the first people to know when those tickets do go on sale again. So thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.